Okay, so you're tuning in because you want to get straight to the point, right? You want those key insights, the aha moments, but maybe without all the fluff.
Exactly. Less time searching, more time understanding.
Well, that's precisely what we aim for in this deep dive. We take the resources you're interested in, the ones you've shared, and we really drill down,
Get to the core.
get to the core. And today, we're exploring how to build a business that, well, not only works day to day, but is actually valuable, something you could potentially sell.
And importantly, sell without you having to be the essential ingredient forever.
Right. We're pulling insights from John Warrillow's book, Built to Sell. It seems like this one really hit home for a lot of entrepreneurs.
Oh, definitely. It got nods from people like Bruce Hunter, Vern Harnish, Harvey Schauchter.
John Janch, Mike Handelsman, too. They all highlighted its, practical, real-world advice on building a sellable company.
And right up front, Bo Burlingham, in the foreword, he throws out this fascinating paradox.
Oh, which area?
He says you should run your company like you'll own it forever,
Oh.
but also structure it so you could sell it tomorrow for maximum value. He calls it having an option strategy, not just an exit strategy.
Option strategy versus exit strategy. What's the nuance there, do you think?
I think exit strategy sounds so final,
Yeah.
like you're just planning to bail.
Right, focused only on the end game.
Exactly, but options strategy, that feels more like building inherent strength and flexibility into the business from the start.
So it creates choices. Selling is one option, but maybe you step back, maybe you bring in partners, maybe you just enjoy a business that runs itself better.
Precisely. It's about building value that gives you, the owner, options down the road. Selling becomes a possible outcome of building something really solid, not the sole purpose.
Makes sense.
And Warrillow uses this story, this narrative, to illustrate it all, about a guy named Alex Stapleton and his mentor, Ted Gordon.
Right. The fictional story based on real experiences.
Yeah, it's a composite drawing wisdom from lots of successful entrepreneurs, and it really gets at why someone would want a sellable business. It's not just about a big payday.
No, it's about retirement, maybe funding the next venture.
Financial security, getting some personal time back, reducing that constant stress, all those things.
And using a story makes these business ideas stick, I find. It's easier than just reading a list of principles. You follow Alex's struggles and successes.
Totally agree. So let's dive into Alex's situation at the start. His business, the Stapleton Agency. It sounds like a pretty typical small marketing agency initially, right?
Yeah, very familiar. Doing a bit of everything, brochures, print ads, websites. You know the type.
What were the main problems he was facing then?
Well, the big one was dependency. The whole operation seemed to revolve around him.
The classic owner trap.
Totally. And they relied heavily on a couple of big clients like M&Y Bank. And those clients didn't just want the agency, they wanted Alex.
So he's personally tied to the deliverables. The business can't scale beyond his own time.
Exactly. Plus, it was a crowded market. Lots of competition from similar agencies, freelancers. Hard to stand out, hard to charge premium rates.
Which sets up Ted's rather blunt assessment.
Yeah, blunt is a good word for it. Ted basically tells him the business as it stands is virtually worthless.
Ouch. That's gotta sting.
For sure.
Yeah.
But it was maybe the wake-up call he needed. Because Ted then pushes him.
Right. He asks Alex that crucial question. What are you really good at? What kind of projects?
Why is zeroing in on that so fundamental, do you think?
Because, as Ted saw it, they were spread too thin, trying to be all things to all clients.
The generalist problem.
Yeah, and when you do that, you often end up, well, just okay at everything. You've got generalist staff trying to do specialist work. The results are often mediocre.
And mediocrity isn't valuable. Or sellable.
Exactly. So finding that one thing they could be great at was step one. Otherwise, you're just another face in the crowd. Remarkable to no one, as you said earlier.
So for Alex, that one thing turned out to be logo design.
Right, which leads directly into Ted's first big tip. Don't generalize, specialize. Focus. They decided to go all in on logos. And importantly, they didn't just say they specialized. They built a process around it.
The 5-step logo design process. Can you walk us through that?
Sure. It was, let's see. Step 1, discovery, understanding the client. Step 2, personification, defining the brand's personality. 3 was sketch concepts.
Getting initial ideas down.
Yep, on paper. Then step 4, black and white design, focusing on form before color. And finally, step 5, color presentation.
And the thinking behind the structure was pretty deliberate, wasn't it? Like starting with sketches.
Absolutely. It wasn't random. Using pencil sketches first, for instance, was designed to keep clients focused on the big picture, the concept itself.
Instead of getting hung up on like fonts or shades of blue too early.
Exactly. It guides the client, manages expectations, and ensures they focus on the right things at the right stage. It puts the agency in control of the creative journey.
It's a structured path for the client.
Right. And you see the payoff almost immediately. Alex tests this new process on a dormant client, Ziggy Epstein.
Natural treats, yeah.
And he actually closes the deal. It just shows the power of having that defined method. It's essentially productizing the service.
Explain that term, productizing.
It's taking a service, which can feel a bit vague sometimes, and giving it the characteristics of a product. Defined steps, clear deliverables, often fixed pricing. It makes it tangible, repeatable.
So even though it's still a service, designing a logo, they started treating it like a product, selling the process as the product.
Precisely, which ties into Ted's tip number 3. Owning a process makes pitching easier and puts you in control.
How did that change Alex's sales approach?
Well, think about it. Instead of a vague, we design logos, he could say, we have a proven 5-step process that delivers X, Y, and Z.
Much more concrete.
Definitely. It gives you a script, a framework. It builds confidence for the salesperson and, crucially, for the client. They know what they're buying. The process itself became the value proposition, not just the potential end result.
And turning the service into a product like that had massive financial benefits too, right? Think about Ted's tip number 5. Avoid the cash suck.
Oh, huge benefits. Let's talk about their old model first.
Okay.
It was the typical agency nightmare. Do the work, send an invoice, then wait. And wait.
Chasing payments. Bad for cash flow.
Terrible, especially for longer projects like logo design, which could take months. They were constantly funding the work out of their own pocket while waiting to get paid. Ted called it a negative cash flow cycle.
Where the more work you get, the worse your cash situation becomes, paradoxically.
Exactly. It's a cash suck,
Yeah.
a major strain. Ted saw that aligning billing with delivery, or even getting paid before delivery, was vital.
So the fix, tied to their productized logo process, was billing differently.
Completely differently. They started billing the full amount for the logo process when the client signed the agreement.
Wow, upfront payment.
Total game changer. Suddenly, cash was coming in before the bulk of the work even started.
So client money is funding the operation, not the other way around.
You got it. They went from cash suck to cash generator. And let me tell you, a business that throws off cash rather than consuming it is incredibly attractive to an acquirer. It signals stability and lower risk.
Absolutely. And that efficiency, that systematization, also helps with Ted's tip number 4 about Alex not being the whole company.
Right. How did specialization help detach the business from Alex personally?
Well, because they had this defined, repeatable 5-step process, it wasn't just about Alex's personal magic anymore.
The team could execute it.
Exactly. Other designers could learn and follow the system consistently. It makes the business the asset, not just the owner. Buyers want to buy a system, not just a person who might leave.
Which brings up another tough piece of advice. Ted's tip number 6. Don't be afraid to say no to projects. That sounds counterintuitive for growth.
It does, right? Why turn down paying work?
Alex faced this directly. He got tempted by other marketing projects, like a big opportunity with a company called USW. It wasn't logo design, but it was revenue.
Understandable temptation.
Very. But Ted's point was crucial. Sticking only to logos would cement their reputation as the absolute experts in that one niche.
Laser focus.
Laser focus. He argued that saying no to non-core work would actually boost their logo referrals in the long run. People would know exactly who to call for logos, become the world's best at one thing.
He even warned that clients will test that resolve, right? See if you'll bend.
Yeah, they'll try. So saying no isn't just about focus, it's about discipline. Defining what you don't do is as important as defining what you do. It clarifies your brand.
Okay, so specialization, process, cash flow, saying no. What about scaling beyond Alex? Ted pushed for building a sales team. Tip number 8. 2 sales reps are better than 1.
Yes. This was about making sales predictable and proving it wasn't just Alex's personal network driving revenue.
Remove the owner bottleneck again.
Exactly. If the owner is the only one selling, the business looks fragile. So they hired Angie Thacker and Seamus O'Reilly.
And Ted had a preference for a certain type of salesperson.
He did. He preferred people like Angie, who had experience selling a defined product, over those used to selling broader, more customizable services. It fit their new productized model better.
Makes sense. And why? 2 reps.
Couple of reasons. 1, a bit of healthy competition never hurts.
Sure.
2, it proves the sales model is scalable and not dependent on one superstar salesperson's unique skills or contacts. It shows the system works.
They even looked at the market size, didn't they? Something like 160 potential logo jobs in town?
Yeah, they did a basic calculation to show the potential. And that ties into tip number 7. Track your pipeline and close rates.
Why is that data so important for a potential buyer? They want proof.
Buyers crave predictability. They want to see a functioning sales funnel. How many leads are coming in? What stage are they at? What percentage actually convert to sales?
It shows the revenue isn't just luck.
Precisely. It demonstrates a measurable, repeatable process for generating business. That data lets buyers forecast future revenue and feel confident about the investment.
Okay, so the business is growing, sales are becoming more systematic, but you need more than just sales reps. Ted's tip 12 was about building a management team.
Right, and offering them a long-term incentive plan. You need leadership beyond the owner.
Who got promoted?
Angie became VP of Sales, Rhina took over as VP of Client Services, and Chris stepped up as VP and Creative Director. A solid second layer of management.
And the incentive wasn't equity.
No, Ted advised against equity in a small private company. It can get messy. Instead, they set up a long-term cash bonus plan.
Why cash?
The goal was to incentivize them to stick around, especially through a potential sale and transition. A strong management team staying in place is a huge plus for a buyer. It signals continuity.
Yeah, a buyer doesn't want the whole leadership team walking out the door right after they buy the company.
Definitely not. So the agency is humming along, Alex is less stressed, it's profitable, and the idea of selling gets serious.
Which leads to tips 13 and 14. Prepare for sale. Get the right advisor.
And the type of advisor matters, according to Ted.
He pushed for M&A advisors over general business brokers, right?
Yeah.
Especially for larger deals.
Yeah, specifically boutique M&A firms, if the deal might be over, say, $5 million. They tend to have more experience with complex deal structures, valuations, and negotiating with sophisticated buyers.
And finding one who gets your specific business is key.
Crucial. You need someone who understands your niche, for whom your deal size is meaningful, so they'll actually prioritize it. Alex's experience showed this. Mark Travers didn't seem like the right fit, maybe even had conflicts.
But Peggy Moyles understood their specialized logo business much better.
Exactly. And Ted warned against advisors who just bring you one potential buyer.
Why is that bad?
No competitive tension. You need multiple interested parties, ideally, to drive the price up. An advisor's job is partly to create that competitive dynamic.
Good point. So you've got the right advisor, then comes the actual selling process. Ted's tip 15 is about the business plan.
Right, not just looking back, but looking forward. A 3-year plan with ambitious but justifiable growth projections.
Painting the picture of future potential for the buyer.
Exactly. Show them the upside, how the business can grow even further under their ownership, perhaps with more resources. Think big.
And tip 16 was interesting about language.
Yes. Ted told Alex to consciously change his vocabulary.
How so?
Start saying customers instead of clients. Talk about the business, not the firm.
Subtle shift. Why?
It reinforces the mindset and the reality that they're selling a scalable, product-oriented business, not just a practice built around individual relationships. Language matters in positioning.
Okay, so the plan is ready, the language is right. Then the offers start coming in. Navigating offers and due diligence. Tip 17.
And this is where it gets intense. They get an offer from Print Technology Group.
But the first offer is rarely the final one, right?
Almost never. Due diligence is where the buyer digs into everything. And predictably, Print Technology Group came back trying to lower their offer based on what they found.
That must have been stressful for Alex.
Hugely. But this is where having that predetermined dream number, his $5 million target, was so important.
He gave him an anchor.
Yes, a benchmark. It stopped him from making purely emotional decisions or just reacting to the buyer's pressure tactics. He knew what number would make the deal worthwhile for him.
So looking back at all these tips from Ted, it's a powerful roadmap.
It really is. Let's quickly recap the big ones.
Okay. Specialize, find your niche.
Don't rely too much on one client.
Own your process. Productize your service.
Make sure the business isn't totally dependent on you.
Manage that cash flow. Get paid up front if possible.
Be disciplined. Say no to things outside your core focus.
Know your numbers. Track that sales pipeline.
Build a solid management team and incentivize them.
And get the right M&A advisor when the time comes.
That's a pretty solid foundation for building a sellable business.
And you mentioned the book also touches on recurring revenue.
Briefly, yeah. It introduces this idea of a recurring revenue hierarchy. Basically, not all recurring revenue is valued equally by buyers.
Oh, okay. How does that work?
Well, it ranges from things like simple consumables, needing to buy more coffee beans, which is good.
Up to things like, say, software subscriptions.
Exactly. Things like auto-renewal subscriptions, or even better, long-term contracts. The more predictable and locked in the revenue is,
The more valuable the business.
yeah,
Because it's less risky for the buyer.
precisely. Higher predictability equals higher valuation, generally speaking.
So putting it all together, Alex's journey really shows the path. From that initial kind of struggling general agency
To a focused, systemized, productized business that was ready to be sold.
and the absolute key was building something that didn't need him in the trenches every single day.
That independence, that ability to thrive without the founder constantly steering the ship, that's what creates real transferable value.
Which brings us to the question for you, listening to this deep dive.
Yeah.
Thinking about your own work, your own business,
Mm-hmm.
what's your logo design?
Yeah, what's that unique, repeatable, valuable process or offering that you could potentially build, refine, and maybe even scale?
Because even if selling isn't your immediate goal, these principles, specialization, process, managing cash, building a team, they just make for a stronger, more sustainable, and less stressful business overall, don't they?
Absolutely. It's about building options for yourself, whatever path you choose.
If you want to dig deeper, John Warrillow's website, builttosell.com, is a good starting point.
And the book mentions other resources too, like Strategic Coach, the E-Myth books by Michael Gerber, Vern Harnish's stuff.
Or the book Small Giants. Lots of avenues to explore these ideas further.
Definitely worth checking out if this resonates.
Well, that wraps up this deep dive. We hope distilling these insights from Built to Sell has given you some valuable things to think about.
Join us next time as we tackle a new set of sources and continue the journey of getting informed efficiently.